Alexander pushed open the heavy oak door of his sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, the jangle of his titanium keys echoing off the marble entryway like a gunshot in the empty foyer. It was 11 a.m., far too early for the Wall Street tycoon to be home. He should have been in a boardroom on the 50th floor of his downtown LA skyscraper, sealing deals that affected thousands of lives. But a pounding migraine and an inexplicable tightness in his chest had forced him to turn back. No one expected the master of the house at this hour. The staff should be busy with their unseen chores, and his daughter, little Mia, should be in her room, lost in that tomb-like silence that had consumed her since the accident. Alexander hated the quiet of his own home. It was a constant reminder that despite his billions, he couldn't buy back his daughter's voice or the joy that had vanished 2 years ago in that tragic car crash on the Pacific Coast Highway. He trudged down the main hallway, his feet sinking into the plush Persian rugs. He planned to head to his study for some meds and a nap, but a sound stopped him cold. At first, he thought it was a hallucination from the headache. He froze, holding his breath. It was laughter, not the polite chuckles of his business partners, not the shrill giggles of Valerie, his fiancée. It was a crystal-clear, pure, uncontrollable child's laugh bouncing off the glass walls of the West Wing. Alexander's heart pounded like a drum in his ribs. He knew that tone. He'd heard it in old home videos before the tragedy. "Mia," he whispered, the word catching in his throat. Driven by desperate instinct, he followed the sound. His Italian leather shoes clacked too loudly, so he slipped them off, padding in socks to avoid shattering the spell. The laughter came from the greenhouse, that vast space of glass and steel his late wife had designed. He'd avoided it for years because the memories burned like acid. Alexander approached the double glass doors, which were slightly ajar. The scent of damp earth, jasmine, and lush greenery hit him before he could see inside. He nudged the door with his fingertips, terrified he was about to glimpse a ghost. And then he saw it. The sight unfolding before him was so powerful, so viscerally beautiful and painful, that he clamped a hand over his mouth to stifle a sob. Sunlight streamed through the glass ceiling, bathing the interior in a heavenly golden glow. There, amid towering ferns and exotic orchids, was Ellen, the new housekeeper. She'd been on staff for just 3 weeks. Alexander only knew she was young, efficient, and worked for minimum wage without complaint. She wore her crisp uniform, a simple blue dress with white trim and a starched apron. Her hands were sheathed in bright yellow rubber gloves, a pop of everyday color amid the botanical elegance. But Ellen wasn't cleaning. She was swaying gently among the pots, and perched on her shoulders, tiny hands gripping her dark hair, was Mia. The girl, whom the priciest psychologists in New York had diagnosed with selective mutism from trauma, had her head thrown back, mouth open in full-bellied laughter as she reached for a dangling palm frond. Ellen spun slowly, making airplane noises, and with each twirl, Mia laughed harder, patting Ellen's shoulders. Even with those yellow gloves still on, breaking every rule of high society etiquette. "Up we go, Captain Mia," Ellen said in a warm voice brimming with genuine affection that no paycheck could buy. "Let's catch that cloud." Mia, the child who hid under tables when Alexander tried to hug her, now glowed. Her eyes, once dull and gray, sparkled with feverish joy. No fear, no trauma in that moment. Just a girl and the woman holding her like the most precious treasure in the universe, not the daughter of a distant boss. Alexander's legs buckled. He leaned against the doorframe, knuckles white on the wood. Seeing his daughter happy was the miracle he'd prayed for every night, but seeing her happy in the arms of a housekeeper he barely acknowledged, while he remained a stranger to her, stirred a devastating mix of infinite gratitude and stinging jealousy. The scene was perfect, too perfect. The humble maid in her cheap rubber gloves, lifting the heiress to an unimaginable fortune toward the light. when her father's money had only sunk her deeper into darkness. In that instant, Alexander realized with brutal clarity that everything he thought he knew about his home was a lie. But the magical moment was about to shatter. Hypnotized, Alexander stepped forward, unaware of the metal watering can on the floor. His foot knocked it over. The metallic clatter tore through the air like a scream, cutting Mia's laughter short and making Ellen whirl around, eyes wide with panic. Subscribe now to the channel to find out why this simple mistake would forever change the mansion's fate and what dark secret Alexander's fiancée is hiding. The clang of the watering can rolling across the tile floor echoed endlessly in the greenhouse, killing the moment's magic. The silence that followed was heavier and more terrifying than the house's usual hush. Ellen turned with defensive speed, and upon seeing Alexander's imposing figure in the doorway, her face drained of color. Pure panic seized her features. In her world, as a housekeeper desperate for the job to survive, being caught playing with the boss's daughter during work hours wasn't tender. It was instant dismissal. "Mr. Alexander, sir," Ellen stammered, her hands, still in those garish yellow gloves, trembling as she gently lowered Mia from her shoulders, cradling the girl's head even amid her own terror. "I can explain. It's not what it looks like. I finished cleaning the downstairs and the girl was crying and please don't fire me. I need this job." Mia, upon touching the ground, didn't run to hide. She stood in front of Ellen, clutching the blue fabric of her skirt in a tight fist, glaring at her father with a defiant expression Alexander had never seen. The child was protecting the housekeeper. Alexander tried to speak, but his throat was concrete. Ellen kept justifying herself, words tumbling out in fear of authority, head bowed, bracing for yells, humiliation, the order to pack and leave. She saw an angry billionaire disrupted by broken discipline, but Alexander wasn't angry. He was broken. Without a word, the businessman who made competitors quake walked toward them. Ellen closed her eyes, shrinking, awaiting the reprimand. Alexander dropped to his knees. It wasn't graceful. He collapsed onto the damp tiles, ruining his $3,000 tailored pants, ignoring the pain as his knees hit the hard floor. He was eye level with his daughter. Hot, silent tears streamed down his cheeks unchecked. "No," he managed, voice cracking, looking up at Ellen from below, inverting every power dynamic. "Don't apologize. Never apologize for this." Ellen opened her eyes, confused, seeing the great Alexander crying like a lost child at her feet. "Wide." Alexander extended a trembling hand toward Mia. He expected her to recoil, as she always did from his expensive gifts or empty promises. But this time, Mia glanced at Ellen. The housekeeper, still scared but intuitive, nodded slightly to the father, granting silent permission. Mia took a hesitant step and, instead of fleeing, placed her small hand on her father's wet cheek. The touch was electric. Alexander closed his eyes and let out a guttural sob that echoed off the glass. He hugged his daughter desperately, burying his face in her tiny shoulder, inhaling the scent of strawberry shampoo and moist earth. Mia didn't tense. For the first time in 2 years, Mia rested her head on her father's shoulder. Ellen watched the scene, stepping back to give them space, feeling like an intruder in this family intimacy, but unable to look away. She peeled off the yellow gloves slowly, as if they suddenly symbolized the barrier between them. "You made her laugh," Alexander said, pulling back slightly from Mia but not letting go, looking at Ellen with red-rimmed eyes stripped of corporate coldness. "I've spent 2 years paying the best doctors in Boston, behavioral therapists, trauma specialists, and no one got even a smile from her. And you were just watering the plants." "Mia likes plants, sir," Ellen said softly, her voice gaining some steadiness. "She likes watching them grow. I think she understands that things can grow back if you give them water and care, even if they look dead." The metaphor hit Alexander like a freight train. He stood slowly, lifting Mia into his arms. The girl nestled against his hip. something she'd never done. Alexander looked at this young woman in her simple uniform and felt a debt his bank account could never repay. "What's your name?" he asked, ashamed he had to ask. He knew she was on payroll but had never met her eyes. "Ellen, sir." "Ellen," he repeated, savoring the name like a sacred word. "What you've done today, you have no idea what it means. Ask for anything, a raise, a day off, whatever." Ellen shook her head, blushing. "I just want to keep caring for her, sir, if you'll allow it." "I allow it," Alexander said with fierce intensity. "In fact, I forbid you to stop." His phone buzzed in his suit pocket. Alexander frowned at the intrusion of reality. He pulled it out. The screen lit up with a name that dropped the greenhouse temperature 10 degrees. Valerie, fiancé. Below the name, a text. "Arriving in 10 minutes. Hope the house is presentable. Bringing press for wedding photos. Hide the kid if she's having one of her bad days." Alexander read it, his blood turning to ice. He glanced at Mia, now calmly playing with a button on his shirt, then at Ellen, who noticed his drastic change. "Something wrong, sir?" Ellen asked, sensing the tension return. Alexander pocketed the phone sharply. The bubble of peace had burst. Valerie was coming, and Alexander knew she hated two things: mess and Mia stealing the spotlight. And right now, with Mia dirty from dirt and his eyes swollen from crying, they were the definition of chaos she despised. "Valerie's coming," Alexander said, his voice hardening back to business mode, but defensive now. "Ellen, listen closely. Take Mia upstairs right now. Bathe her, put on her prettiest dress, and you, clean that uniform." "Sir?" Ellen looked confused by the sudden shift. "Valerie can't see this," Alexander said, glancing around the greenhouse at scattered toys and the hose on the ground. It wasn't shame. It was protection. He knew if Valerie saw the budding connection, she'd destroy it. She wanted to be the family savior for the cameras, not the stepmom outshone by the housekeeper. "She can't know what just happened here. Please trust me. Do it fast." Ellen, catching the urgency and hidden fear in his eyes, nodded. She took Mia from Alexander's arms. The girl protested mildly, but Ellen whispered something in her ear, calming her. "Go," Alexander ordered. Ellen hurried out of the greenhouse with Mia, her footsteps echoing toward the service stairs. Alexander stayed alone among the orchids, smoothing his wrinkled suit and wiping tears with the back of his hand. He breathed deep, bracing for war. The woman who claimed to love him was about to walk in, and for the first time, her arrival made him nauseous. He glanced at the front door. The roar of a sports car engine in the driveway signaled time was up. The villain had arrived, unaware the game board had flipped. The sharp click of stiletto heels on the marble foyer shattered the silence Alexander had cherished moments ago. The front door swung open, not pushed but with rehearsed force for impact. Valerie stormed in like she owned everything the light touched, whipping off designer sunglasses dramatically while tossing her crocodile skin purse onto an antique console, uncaring if it scratched the century-old wood. "What a god-awful heat wave in this city," she exclaimed to the air, assuming someone would hear her complaints. "Alexander, why's the AC so low? I feel like I'm melting." Alexander descended the main stairs, suit buttoned to hide his still shaking hands from the greenhouse encounter. His face was a mask of neutrality, honed in 1,000 boardrooms, but inside, his stomach churned at the sight of her. Valerie looked impeccable in a cream dress, costing more than Ellen's yearly salary, her blonde hair in perfect waves, a smile not reaching her cold, calculating eyes. Behind her, 2 assistants lugged gift boxes and garment bags. The press she'd mentioned wasn't visible, likely waiting in the car or scheduled later. "Hello, Valerie," Alexander said, stopping on the last step. His voice was deeper than usual. She approached and pecked his cheek quickly, leaving a cloying perfume trail that clashed with the honest earth scent still on his clothes. Darling, you're here? She said, scanning him critically. I thought you'd be closing the merger with the Silicon Valley folks. Did you change your tie? It doesn't match your eyes. Before Alexander could reply, a timid movement in the side hallway caught their attention. Ellen appeared, uniform clean, hair back in a severe bun per protocol. Mia clutched her left hand so tightly her knuckles whitened. The girl wore a pale pink dress, hair combed, but her eyes fixed on the floor. Valerie's expression shifted instantly from superficial annoyance to barely veiled disdain. "Ah, there's the little mute princess," Valerie said, forcing a saccharine tone that grated like rusted metal. "And the new maid. What was your name again? Elsa? Elvira?" "Ellen, ma'am," she replied, eyes downcast with respect. "Ellen, right. Look at my shoes." Valerie pointed to her red-soled heels. "I stepped in something gross outside. Think one of the gardener's dogs left a present. Clean them now. Don't want bacteria on the rugs." Alexander felt hot anger rise in his neck. He watched Ellen gently release Mia's hand to obey, kneeling before Valerie with painful humility. But then something shattered Valerie's script. Mia didn't stay still. Instead of running to her father or freezing, the girl stepped quickly between Ellen and Valerie. With tiny arms outstretched like a miniature human shield, she frowned at her father's fiancé. She said nothing, made no sound, but the gesture screamed, "Don't touch her!" Valerie let out a nervous laugh, stepping back. "What's wrong with this kid?" she asked Alexander with feigned indignation. "She's getting wilder every day." Ellen, from the floor, looked at Mia with panic. "Mia, no, honey. It's okay," Ellen whispered quickly, gently moving the girl aside to avoid further angering Valerie. "The lady's right. I need to clean this. Go to Daddy." But Mia didn't go to Daddy. When Ellen moved, Mia spun and hid behind the housekeeper's legs, gripping the blue skirt folds like a safe haven in a hostile world. Alexander watched, heart constricting. His daughter preferred a woman she'd known 3 weeks over her own father or future stepmom. "See?" Valerie pointed accusingly, her sweet mask slipping for a second. "That woman's spoiling her. She's got her totally manipulated, probably bribes her with candy." Alexander clenched fists in his pockets until his nails hurt. He wanted to scream, to throw Valerie out that instant, but years of negotiations taught him never to show cards without a winning hand. He needed to know more. He needed to see Valerie's cruelty depth and Ellen's kindness. "Valerie," Alexander interrupted with glacial calm. "Leave the shoes. Ellen can handle them later. Now take Mia to the playroom, Ellen." Valerie huffed, annoyed at being contradicted, but composed herself quickly. "Fine, anyway. I need to talk to you alone about the wedding guest list. Robert's mom insists we invite—" "I'm not going to the office today," Alexander cut in. Valerie froze, her water glass halfway to her lips. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "What?" "But the meeting's crucial. You always say work comes first." "Not today. I feel unwell," Alexander lied, locking eyes with her. "Cancelled everything. Staying home. We'll lunch together." A flicker of discomfort crossed Valerie's face. Quick, almost invisible, but Alexander caught it. She disliked him home on a Tuesday afternoon. His presence disrupted an ecosystem she thought she controlled when he was away. "Oh, well," Valerie forced a smile. "That's a surprise. Nice, I guess, though I planned some personal calls and you know I hate being overheard when talking to my event planner." "You'll have time," Alexander said, turning toward his study. "I'll be in my office. Don't disturb me." As he walked away, he heard Valerie snap her fingers at Ellen. "Don't just stand there like a statue. Take the kid and keep her quiet. My head's killing me. I need absolute silence. And bring me an iced coffee on the patio with almond milk. If it's regular, you'll regret it. Got it?" "Yes, ma'am," came Ellen's submissive reply. Alexander didn't turn, but his jaw was so tight he feared cracking teeth. He entered his study and locked the door. The click sounded like a countdown start. The study was a fortress of mahogany and leather designed to intimidate rivals, but now it felt like a surveillance bunker. Alexander bypassed his ergonomic chair and went to a hidden panel behind an abstract painting, keying in a security code. A high-def screen rose from the desk. He wasn't working. He was hunting truth. The mansion's security system was state-of-the-art. A high-end security system installed in the main living areas and playrooms, installed after his wife's death from security paranoia he'd never used, until today. Alexander sat, loosening his tie, fingers flying over the keyboard. "Let's see what happens in my house when the king's away," he muttered. He accessed the recordings, selecting Monday, 2 days ago. Time, 2 p.m. The screen showed the main living room. Mia sat on the rug, surrounded by expensive dolls she ignored. Valerie lounged on the sofa, feet on the coffee table, on her phone. Alexander cranked the volume. "I'm serious, Cammy. It's unbearable." Valerie's voice came clear. "The guy's so boring, all business, but the ring's worth it. Have you seen this diamond's size? Once we're married and he has his stress-induced heart attack, I'll be the richest widow in California." Alexander felt a gut punch. He knew Valerie was materialistic, but hearing her plot his widowhood so coldly was sickening. But worse followed. In the video, Mia approached Valerie, tugging her sleeve and pointing to the kitchen. The girl was hungry. "Get off!" Valerie snapped, pushing Mia away without even looking up. "Look at you, snot-nosed! Gross! Scram, Ellen!" The door opened. Ellen rushed in. "Take this thing to her room," Valerie ordered, eyes on her phone. "She's ruining my vibe, and don't let her down till evening." "But ma'am, the girl's not eaten," Ellen tried. "Don't care. Teach her not to bother." Alexander paused the video. His hands shook. He'd been sleeping with a monster. His daughter had gone hungry in her own home while he made millions. Guilt burned his throat like acid. He breathed deep and fast-forwarded an hour. Playroom camera. Mia cried silently in a corner, stomach growling. The door creaked open. It was Ellen. She glanced down the hall, ensured no one saw, and entered quietly. "Shh, sweetie, look what I brought," Ellen's sweet voice said. She sat on the floor beside the girl. "It's mac and cheese. My mom made it, but I brought it for you. It's yummy, but eat fast. Our secret." Alexander watched through impotent tears as his housekeeper fed his heiress daughter spoonfuls, blowing on each with infinite patience. He saw Mia eat desperately, then hug Ellen, who rocked her and sang a lullaby he didn't know. "No one's hurting you while I'm here, princess," Ellen whispered in the recording. "You're brave, strong, important." Alexander switched dates. Last Friday, service entrance camera. Ellen arrived with a cheap shopping bag. Alexander zoomed. Not food, toys, but not the pricey electronic ones he bought that Mia ignored. Wooden puzzles, coloring books, Play-Doh. Alexander opened another window, accessing employee payroll. He found Ellen's salary, minimum wage, barely covering rent and food. Yet on screen, she pulled a receipt from her pocket, counting remaining coins with a worried face. "She spent her own money," Alexander whispered incredulously. In the video, Ellen sat with Mia, opening the Play-Doh. "Look, Mia, let's make a garden," Ellen said. "This flower's you, and this big one's your dad." "Dad," Mia whispered in the video. It was faint, hoarse, but Alexander heard it. He froze the image. Mia had spoken, said "Dad" while shaping Play-Doh with the housekeeper. And he hadn't been there. He'd been at a business dinner with Valerie, who was likely mocking him behind his back. The truth shone in high-def pixels. Ellen, a woman without means, gave his daughter what his money couldn't. Time, love, sacrifice, presence. Valerie, with everything, offered only poison. Alexander slammed his fist on the desk, sending a gold pen flying. It's over, he growled. But firing Valerie now would be too easy. He needed to expose her. He needed the world and himself to see her true self before kicking her to the curb. And he needed to protect Ellen. If Valerie suspected he knew, her first target would be the one person making Mia happy. Alexander checked the clock. 20 minutes till lunch. He wiped his face, turning pain into calculated coldness. He had a plan. He'd pressure test Valerie and use lunchtime to detonate the first bomb. He stood, smoothed his suit, and glanced at the screen one last time, at the frozen image of Ellen hugging his daughter. "Hold on a bit longer, Ellen," he said to the empty screen. "Things are changing today." The main dining room was a mausoleum of cold etiquette, dominated by a mahogany table long enough for 20, though usually just 2 sat there. When Alexander entered, the air was already charged. Silver cutlery gleamed under the crystal chandelier, and Valerie sat in her usual spot, checking her reflection in a butter knife blade. "Finally," she said without looking up, adjusting a diamond earring. "The chef made salmon. Hope you're not late. I've got a spa appointment at 3. Alexander ignored her and addressed the butler, Robert, waiting in the corner with gloved hands clasped. "Robert," Alexander said firmly, "set an extra place." Valerie's head snapped up, brow arched. "An extra place? Expecting someone? You didn't say your lawyer was coming." "Not my lawyer." Alexander turned to the kitchen door, where Ellen stood with Mia in arms, ready to feed the girl in the kitchen per Valerie's cruel norm. Ellen kept her eyes down, trying to be invisible. "Ellen!" Alexander called. His voice brooked no argument. "Sit at the table with us." The ensuing silence was total. You could hear a pin drop. Valerie's eyes widened from shock to volcanic outrage in seconds. Ellen froze, hugging Mia tighter. "Sir," Ellen whispered, panic in her eyes. "I can't. My place is—" "Your place is where my daughter is," Alexander interrupted, pulling out an empty chair himself, a move confusing the butler. "Today is special," Alexander improvised, recalling the security video. "It's family day, and you're who cares for my family. Sit." Valerie let out a shrill, nervous laugh, dropping her napkin. "This is a joke, right, Alexander?" she said, eyeing Ellen with visceral disgust, as if the housekeeper carried contagion. "You can't seriously seat the help at the main table. With us, with me." "Mia won't eat without you, right, Ellen?" Alexander said, ignoring his fiancée, staring at the housekeeper. Ellen nodded slightly, terrified. Mia, sensing tension but happy near Ellen, reached toward the table, babbling something joyful. "Then it's a health matter," Alexander declared. "Sit. That's an order." Ellen approached on shaking legs. She placed Mia in her high chair and perched on the chair's edge like she feared soiling it. Valerie watched, jaw clenched, knuckles white on her red wine glass. Lunch began in tense silence. The only sounds were clinking china and, miraculously, Mia's giggles. For the first time in months, the girl ate heartily. Ellen cut small salmon bites and fed her patiently, whispering games to open her mouth. "Here comes the airplane, Mia. Open the hangar," Ellen murmured. Alexander watched, fascinated. His daughter ate, laughed. Valerie, however, didn't eat. She observed the interaction with jealousy and pure fury. She felt displaced on her turf. The maid was usurping her perfect future mom role with insulting ease. "Stop those ridiculous noises!" Valerie snapped suddenly, startling Mia into dropping her fork. "This is a civilized table, not a zoo. Didn't they teach manners where you're from?" Ellen lowered her head, humiliated. "Sorry, ma'am, just trying to get the girl to eat." "You're doing it wrong. You're spoiling her." Valerie sipped wine, eyes gleaming with malice. "Alexander, you're really allowing this? It's degrading. She smells like bleach, ruins my appetite." To me, this is the most pleasant meal we've had in years, Alexander replied coldly, cutting his steak without glancing at his fiancée. Mia's happy. That's all that matters. That phrase ignited it. Valerie, feeling control slip, decided to mark territory in the most humiliating way. "Oh dear," Valerie said, leaning toward Ellen with a fake smile. "You've got a stain on your uniform, honey. Let me help." With a quick, calculated wrist flick, Valerie knocked the salt shaker. Her hand slammed her full wine glass. The dark red liquid shot out like a missile, hitting Ellen's chest and lap dead on. Wine soaked the white apron and blue dress in seconds, staining like blood. The cold liquid dripped down Ellen's legs and splashed Mia's arm. Mia burst into tears from the shock. Ellen jumped up, gasping, trying to wipe the mess with her hands, but only spreading it. "Oops, my clumsiness," Valerie exclaimed, hand to mouth in award-worthy acting, though her eyes sparkled with cruel satisfaction. "So sorry, but at least the wine matches your red cheeks. Change before you ruin the chair upholstery. It's imported silk, worth more than your yearly pay." Alexander shot to his feet, chair crashing back. He stared at the stain on Ellen's chest, then at Valerie. It wasn't an accident. He'd seen the wrist move. It was an attack. "You okay?" he asked Ellen, ignoring Valerie's fake apologies. "Yes, sir," Ellen said, fighting humiliation tears, shaking. "Excuse me, I'll clean up. So sorry." "You've nothing to be sorry for," Alexander said gravely. "Go change. Take your time." Ellen fled the dining room, head down. Mia, seeing her protector leave, screamed and squirmed in her high chair, arms outstretched toward the door. In her panic, Mia cried out a word she hadn't dared to say in over 2 years. The word hung in the air. Valerie froze. Alexander shivered. She hadn't called her dead mother. She was calling Ellen. Valerie slapped the table. "You heard that!" she hissed venomously. "That woman's brainwashing her. The kid thinks she's her mom. Alexander, fire her today. She's dangerous." Alexander looked at his fiancée and for the first time saw not beauty, but an enemy. "Shut up, Valerie," he said with scary calm. "Just shut up." Ellen had raced up the service stairs, heart hammering, the sticky cold fabric clinging to her skin. She felt dirty, not just from wine, but Valerie's contemptuous stare. In her small room, she stripped the ruined uniform with shaking hands and grabbed a spare. No clean uniform handy, so in the rush, she threw on her own clothes, faded jeans and a plain white tee. "Just till I wash this," she thought. Down in the dining room, tension had become Cold War. Alexander had lifted Mia from the high chair to soothe her, but the girl was restless, pointing to the backyard through French doors. "Wants outside?" Alexander said, more to himself than Valerie. "Let her," Valerie replied, lighting a slim cigarette, despite Alexander's hatred of smoke indoors. "Fresh air might stop the crying, giving me a migraine." Alexander opened the glass door, letting Mia out to the stone patio. The yard was secure, fenced. He could watch from the table. He needed a moment alone with Valerie to confront her, but before he could speak, Valerie attacked. "That woman's a gold digger, Alexander," she began, exhaling smoke elegantly. "I've seen it before. Wins over the kid, then the dad, and next thing, paternity suit or blackmail. She's using Mia, obvious." Alexander eyed her, analyzing every gesture. "You think?" he said neutrally. "To me, she's the only one who cares about Mia. You don't even know her favorite food." "Who cares?" Valerie scoffed. "That's why we pay people. I'll be her legal mom, not her nanny. My job's molding her into a society lady, not wiping snot." As they argued, neither noticed Mia, drawn by a blue butterfly wandering past the patio. The girl descended steps to the lower garden level, where the large decorative pool shimmered. The pool was open for spring, deep and inviting under the sun. Mia chased the butterfly to the edge. She leaned to touch the sparkling water. There was a sudden splash, and the surface of the water rippled violently. Alexander, back to the window hearing Valerie's gripes, didn't see, but Ellen did. Ellen had just come down in civilian clothes and, passing the garden view hallway, saw through the glass the exact moment Mia's little shoes slipped on the granite edge. She saw the pink dress hit the water, sending waves racing across the pool. "Mia!" Ellen's scream was gut-wrenching, slicing the dining room talk. Alexander spun at his daughter's name, yelled with such terror. He saw Ellen bolt like lightning, crossing the room and slamming open the garden doors so hard one rebounded off the wall. "What now?" Valerie asked, annoyed by the noise. Alexander looked outside. His heart stopped. Only ripples in the pool water. No daughter. Time slowed. Alexander ran, stumbling over a chair, bursting outside. "She fell!" he yelled. Valerie rose slowly, setting down her glass. She walked to the threshold but stopped. She stared at the pool. Alexander sprinted, but he was 50 yards away. Ellen was closer. Ellen didn't hesitate. No removing shoes, no gauging depth, no thinking of her pocket phone. She ran and dove in a perfect leap into the icy water, breaking the surface before Alexander was halfway. Alexander reached the edge as Ellen surfaced, coughing and gasping, holding Mia above water. The girl coughed, scared, soaked, wailing, but alive. Ellen kicked hard to stay afloat with the child's weight and her own sodden clothes dragging her down. "Give her!" Alexander shouted, dropping to the ground at the edge, arms out. Ellen swam to him and handed Mia over. Alexander pulled her out, hugging her to his chest, feeling her tiny body shake. He wrapped her in his suit jacket, kissing her wet head repeatedly. Thank God, he murmured. Then he looked back at the water. Ellen struggled to exit, heavy wet jeans weighing tons, exhausted from adrenaline. Alexander offered his hand, helping her up. She collapsed on the grass, coughing water, shivering. That's when Valerie arrived. She picked her way across the lawn carefully so her heels wouldn't sink. She stopped a few yards away, surveying the scene with disgust, like watching a wet dog shake. "What a scare," Valerie said without nearing the girl. "Good thing the help was nearby. Alexander, watch your suit. She'll soak it. That kid's impossible. Told you we need a higher fence. Her fault for no discipline." Alexander, still on the ground hugging his soaked daughter, looked up incredulously. "You're worried about my suit?" His voice low and dangerous. "Well, it's Italian silk, darling, and we have the investor dinner tonight," she replied, checking her watch. "And look at this woman," she pointed at Ellen, clothes clinging, on the ground catching breath. "She's a mess. Hope she doesn't track inside and wet the Persian rugs. Use the service entrance and dry in the laundry room." Ellen, shivering, said nothing, only eyeing Mia worriedly. "Is the girl okay, sir?" Ellen asked, teeth chattering. "She swallowed lots of water, need a doctor to check her lungs." The contrast was stark. Ellen, drenched and freezing, thought only of Mia's health. Valerie, dry and perfect, thought of rugs and social plans. Alexander stood with Mia, looked at Ellen, and offered his free hand. "Get up, Ellen," he said gently. "You'll enter the front door and take a hot shower in the downstairs guest bath. The closest." "But sir, the rugs," Ellen began. "Screw the rugs," Alexander yelled, making Valerie step back scared. "You just saved my daughter's life." Valerie crossed arms, offended. "Don't yell at me, Alexander. I'm in shock, that's all. I didn't jump in because this dress is dry clean only, and the water's freezing. I could get sick. Besides, that's what you pay her for. It's her job." Alexander stared at Valerie with crystal clarity. He finally saw her. Empty, selfish, cruel. "Inside," he said, looking only at Ellen. "Mia needs warmth, and so do you." Alexander walked to the house, carrying his daughter, guiding Ellen. Valerie stood alone in the garden, wind mussing her perfect hair, realizing for the first time control was slipping, and the enemy wasn't the help, but her own indifference exposed in sunlight. The digital thermometer beeped in the dim room like an emergency alarm. Alexander squinted at the small screen worriedly. 103.1. Mia stirred in the huge bed, moaning in sleep. Her usually pale skin was flushed, burning hot. The pool plunge in cold water, plus the day's emotional stress, had taken its toll. The girl shivered under the down comforter, teeth chattering in a soul-rending sound. "Easy, princess. I'm here," Alexander whispered, smoothing a cool hand over her sweaty forehead. He felt useless. He could move billions with a call, but couldn't lower his daughter's fever. The door burst open, letting in harsh hallway light. Valerie entered like a high-fashion specter in a blood-red gala gown, tight as second skin, covered in sequins glittering like knives under artificial light. Her hair was a lacquer and pin masterpiece, neck sparkling with a sapphire necklace he'd gifted last month. "Alexander, for God's sake," Valerie said, glancing at her diamond watch. "I've been waiting downstairs 20 minutes. The driver's idling. Why still in that wrinkled shirt? The charity gala starts in half an hour, and you know if we're late for the red carpet, we'll end up on page 3 of the society mags." Alexander looked up slowly, not releasing Mia's burning hand. The image's incongruity was grotesque. His sick daughter battling fever, his fiancé fretting over a photo op. "Mia's got almost 104 fever, Valerie," he said hoarsely. "She's delirious." Valerie sighed exasperatedly, entering but keeping distance from the bed, as if illness was tacky and might stain her gown. "It's fever, Alexander, not the plague. Kids get it all the time. It's her way of attention-seeking after that pool stunt," she said, adjusting an earring. "You gave her meds, right? She'll sleep, be fine tomorrow. Come on, suit up. The mayor's there. I need you chatting him up about permits for my new boutique spa." Alexander felt repulsion so strong he clenched his jaw to avoid yelling. "I'm not going," he said, eyes back on his daughter. The silence thickened. Valerie stepped forward, heels digging into carpet. "Excuse me?" she asked, dangerously low. "You're ditching me at the year's biggest event for a flu?" "Not a flu. My daughter." Alexander stood, facing Valerie. His height and contained fury made her retreat a step. "She nearly drowned today. She's burning up. She needs me. If you want to smile for cameras and pretend we're perfect, go alone. But I'm not leaving this room till her fever breaks." Valerie's face twisted in anger. The beauty mask cracked, revealing egoism's ugliness. "You're unbelievable," she spat. "You're turning soft, Alexander. Since that maid arrived, you've changed. You used to get priorities. Our image is priority. What'll I tell guests? The big mogul stayed home playing nurse?" "Tell them what you want," Alexander said, turning away. "Close the door on your way out." "And Mama." Valerie gasped, offended. "Fine. I'm going, but this isn't over. You're choosing wrong, Alexander. Choosing cheap drama from a spoiled kid over our future." Valerie whirled, gown tail flying, and stormed out, slamming the door so hard pictures rattled. Mia startled, crying weakly. Alexander cursed softly and leaned over her. "Shh, she's gone," he whispered, trying to calm her, but Mia wouldn't settle. Agitated, kicking sheets, mumbling nonsense. Fatherly panic choked him. He didn't know whether to cover or uncover her, give water or let her sleep. Then the door opened again. No slam, no blinding light, no heel clacks. A silent, almost ghostly entry. Ellen came in with a basin of warm water and folded white towels over her arm. No longer in wine-stained uniform or wet street clothes, she wore simple gray cotton pajamas, worn but clean, hair loose over shoulders. She looked younger, more vulnerable, but her eyes held steel determination. Without a word or permission, she approached the bed's other side, set the basin on the nightstand, soaked a towel, wringing it with precise, gentle moves. "Excuse me, sir," she whispered. Alexander stepped aside instinctively. He watched, mesmerized, as Ellen took control with stunning naturalness. No fear in her hands, just certainty. Ellen placed the damp cloth on Mia's forehead. The girl stopped moaning almost instantly, sighing at the cool relief. Then Ellen took Mia's wrists, wiping damp cloth along arm creases and neck, lowering body temp with an old, patient technique no modern doc would prescribe, but it worked. "Medicine takes time to kick in," Ellen explained softly, not stopping. "Warm water helps the body not fight so hard. Keep her cool, but not cold." Alexander sat in a shadowed corner armchair, feeling like a spectator in his life. He saw Ellen's silhouette against the nightstand lamp, saw her stroke Mia's hair, brushing sweaty strands from her face, saw Mia, even in feverish delirium, seek Ellen's hand and cling. Hours passed. The house fell totally silent. Valerie's car had left long ago, taking noise and falsity with it. In the room, only Mia's breathing, gradually more rhythmic and calm. Alexander couldn't stop watching Ellen. She hadn't sat. She stayed standing or bent over the bed, changing cloths every 10 minutes, monitoring each sigh. She had bags under her eyes, visibly drained from the day's drama, but showed no impatience. At one point, Mia whimpered again, uncomfortable from a dream. Ellen leaned close, lips near the girl's ear, and hummed. Alexander closed his eyes, head back in the chair. The melody was soft, an old American folk lullaby, sweet and melancholic. Ellen's voice wasn't professional singer quality, but had warmth vibrating in the chest. A voice loaded with love, that healing, protecting, monster-chasing love. Alexander felt chest pressure, but not pain. Something absent for years. Peace. Seeing this woman care for his daughter with devotion beyond contract, doing what the future stepmom refused, broke Alexander's last defense barrier. There, in the sick room darkness, Alexander realized Valerie had taken glamour to the party, but Ellen brought home to the room. The nightstand clock read 3:14 a.m. Mia's fever had finally broken. The girl slept deeply, breathing soft and steady, hugging a stuffed animal Ellen had tucked under her arm. The crisis passed. Ellen backed from the bed like a ghost, careful not to creak the wood floor. She headed for the door, likely to her basement staff room now her unofficial shift ended. "Don't go," Alexander said from the armchair shadows. Ellen startled slightly. She'd thought him asleep. She paused, hand on knob, and turned. "The girl's fine now, sir. She needs rest. And you too. Tomorrow you have, well, important things, I guess." Alexander stood. He was barefoot, jacketless, shirt sleeves rolled to elbows. He looked human, approachable, far from the untouchable figure in finance mags. "I can't sleep," he confessed, "and I don't want you gone yet. Please, if she wakes and doesn't see you, she'll freak." Ellen hesitated but nodded, releasing the knob. "Want me to make tea, sir?" she asked, falling back on employee role to mask the midnight intimacy awkwardness. "No. Sit." Alexander pointed to the other armchair by the large window overlooking the moonlit garden. "Just talk." Ellen sat on the chair's edge, hands clasped in lap, nervous. Alexander sat opposite. Moonlight streamed in, silvering half Ellen's face, shadowing the other. "Thank you," Alexander said. A simple word, but immense weight. "Just did what anyone would, sir." "No." Alexander shook his head. "Valerie didn't. No one else did. You dove into freezing pool fully clothed. Spent the night awake caring for a kid not yours. That's not anyone. That's extraordinary." Ellen looked down, embarrassed by praise. "Mia's special. Easy to love," she murmured. Alexander observed her silently, studying her tired features, the sadness lingering in her dark eyes' depths. Something in her, an old pain, resonated with his. "Ellen." Alexander leaned forward, elbows on knees. "I have to ask something, and be honest. Not as employee, as person." She met his eyes. "Tell me, sir." "How do you know so much?" he asked softly. "Not just fevers or damp cloths. You know how to hold her, calm her fears. Know songs that sleep her in seconds. You have the instinct. That doesn't come from nursing courses or books. Comes from somewhere else." Ellen swallowed. Her hands clenched till knuckles whitened. She looked to the window. Night darkness. "I had a teacher," she said, voice barely audible, fragile as glass. "A teacher." "Yes." Ellen drew a trembling breath that seemed to tear her chest. "Her name was Sophia." Alexander waited, sensing sacred ground. "Sophia," Ellen continued, a lone tear gleaming moonlight rolling down her cheek. "Sophia was Mia's age when she left." The room's silence turned absolute. Alexander's heart punched. "Was she your daughter?" he asked it, knowing the answer. Ellen nodded slowly, unable to speak at first. She wiped the tear quickly, as if no right to cry before her boss. "She passed 3 years ago," she said, voice broken but steady, from telling the story 1,000 times in solitude. "Pneumonia. We couldn't afford top doctors or a private hospital like this. I did everything. Damp cloths, same songs, but it wasn't enough. God took her while she slept in my arms." Alexander froze. Ellen's tragedy dwarfed his problems. He'd lost his wife, yes, and it hurt. But Ellen lost her daughter to poverty, lacking resources he had in excess. And now that woman used all the love she couldn't give her dead child to save a billionaire's daughter. "Ellen," Alexander's eyes watered. Shame at his wealth against her poverty hit him. "I'm so sorry." "When I came to this house," Ellen continued, gazing at sleeping Mia, "and saw Mia so sad, so alone in this huge place, I felt Sophia giving me a sign. Felt all the love locked in my chest, rotting because no one to give it to could be useful. Mia's not my daughter, sir. I know, but when I hug her, I feel my girl smiling from somewhere." Alexander couldn't hold back. He reached, covering Ellen's hands with his. They were cold. His touch bridged worlds, 2 pains finally meeting. "You saved her today," he said intensely. "Not just from water. You're saving her from loneliness. Saving me too, though you don't realize." Ellen looked at their hands, felt the warmth, strength, protection. She raised her eyes, their gazes locked. At 3 a.m., no boss or employee, just a man and woman linked by love for a child and past scars. The air charged with new, dense, dangerous electricity. Alexander felt magnetic pull to close the gap, console her in a rule-breaking way. Ellen didn't pull away. Lips parted. Breathing quickened slightly. A raw, real connection. Something absent even in Valerie's best moments. They were inches apart. Alexander saw gold flecks in Ellen's dark eyes, smelled her clean soap and sadness scent. He leaned closer, almost unconsciously. Suddenly, a car crunching gravel in the driveway shattered the spell like a brick through glass. Headlight beams swept the room's ceiling briefly. Ellen yanked her hands away like burned, standing, retreating to shadow. "It's Miss Valerie," she whispered, fear returning. "She's back." Alexander sat, hand still extended in void, feeling the loss. His face hardened. The intimacy bubble burst. Reality in stiletto steps on asphalt came to claim territory. "Let her come," Alexander said, standing, staring at the door with cold determination. "But things in this house aren't like before." Ellen looked scared at what might happen, but Alexander feared no more. He'd seen truth in Ellen's eyes, giving him strength to face the lie climbing the stairs. The next morning dawned with a leaden gray sky, as if weather foretold the storm brewing inside the mansion. Alexander had slept barely 2 hours in the armchair by Mia's bed, watching her every breath, while Ellen, after the intense midnight talk, returned to the basement for brief rest before her shift. At 9 sharp, the front door opened authoritatively, breaking tense breakfast calm. Alexander, feeding Mia oatmeal spoonfuls in the kitchen, ignoring the formal dining room that day, tensed. Mia, sensing it, dropped her spoon. Valerie entered the kitchen unannounced, not alone. Behind her walked a woman carved from ice, tall, bony, in impeccable gray suit, hair in a bun so tight it stretched her face skin. She carried a leather folder, eyeing the kitchen with clinical disdain, like assessing a dirty operating room. "Good morning," Valerie said with triumphant smile boding ill. "Alexander, meet Miss Agatha Trench. She's a certified governess from the elite Boston Academy, specializing in child discipline and correcting deviant behaviors." The woman, Agatha, nodded slightly without smiling. Her eyes were emotionless black wells. "Sir," she said metallically, "I've reviewed your daughter's file. The mutism is prolonged tantrum. With my methods, she'll speak in 2 weeks. Discipline builds character." Alexander set the oatmeal bowl down with a thud. "What are you talking about, Valerie? We're not hiring a governess." "Oh, we are," Valerie replied, striding to the counter, pouring coffee casually. "After yesterday's disaster, we need pros. That girl Ellen nearly drowned your daughter. Negligent, inexperienced, dangerous. So I made the executive decision to fire her. Agatha starts now." Just then, the service door opened. Ellen entered in clean uniform, face washed, ready for work. She halted at the scene. The gray woman, Valerie's malicious smile, Mia's panic. "Ellen," Valerie turned with white envelope. "You're fired. Here's severance and extra for the pool hassle. 10 minutes to pack your rags and leave my house." Ellen eyed the envelope, then Mia. Her eyes teared. Not for money or job, but the girl. "Ma'am, please, it wasn't negligence. The girl ran, and I—" "Silence," Valerie barked. "No excuses. Out. And if you approach Mia to say goodbye, I'll call security." Mia, grasping what happened, let out a choked scream. She clambered from the high chair clumsily and ran to Ellen, hugging her legs superhumanly tight, burying her face in the blue apron. She cried hoarse, deep from the gut. "Release her!" Agatha stepped forward, intent on prying the girl by force. "Excess physical contact fosters weakness." Agatha extended bony hands toward Mia. The girl screamed louder, terrified of the stranger. "Don't touch her!" Alexander roared. His yell was so powerful that Agatha froze. Valerie spilled coffee. Alexander stood, chair scraping violently. He positioned between the new governess and Ellen. "No one's touching my daughter, and no one's leaving this house," Alexander said, staring Valerie down. "Alexander, be reasonable," Valerie insisted, switching to manipulative persuasion. "Look at this woman. She's a mere cleaner. Agatha has degrees, royal references. Best for Mia. Risking your daughter's future for a maid who can't even speak properly." Alexander glanced at Ellen, saw her stroking Mia's hair with trembling hands, consoling silently despite humiliation. Then at Agatha, waiting like a robotic soldier. "Ellen stays," Alexander declared. "She saved Mia yesterday, lowered her fever last night. She's the only one here, besides me, who loves this child." Valerie laughed incredulously. "Love? Please, Alexander, she's an employee, does it for money. Think she loves you? She wants your wallet. You're so naive, it's pathetic." "If she stays, I go." Won't live under the same roof as a negligent putting our family at risk. Choose the maid or your future wife. The ultimatum hung. Valerie was sure of victory. She knew Alexander hated scandals. The wedding was key for business social events. Canceling the engagement would be PR disaster. Alexander looked Valerie in the eyes, saw arrogant certainty, and his financier brain clicked. If he threw her out now, she'd cause drama sue, spin press tales of him and the maid's affair abusing the kid. He needed proof, needed Valerie to self-destruct, today. Alexander dropped his gaze, feigning doubt, shoulders slumped in calculated defeat. "Okay, Valerie," he said quietly. Ellen looked up, shocked and hurt. Mia stopped crying, eyeing her father wide-eyed. "See? Knew you'd see reason," Valerie said, smiling victoriously. "Agatha, take the kid to the study room. Ellen, pack." "Wait," Alexander interrupted. "Can't fire her like this legally. Needs notice or union sues. Let's do this. Ellen stays today for transition. Shows Miss Agatha Mia's routines, where things are. Meds. Tomorrow morning, Ellen leaves." Valerie pondered suspiciously, but victory was hers, so she magnanimously agreed. "Fine, one day. But Agatha supervises every move. Don't want that woman planting weird ideas in the kid's head before going." "Agreed," Alexander said. He turned to Ellen with intense gaze, trying to convey secret message. "Ellen, please cooperate. Do what the lady says, just for today." Ellen, confused and heartbroken, didn't get the strategy, but trusted his tone. She nodded slowly, swallowing pride. "Yes, sir." Valerie clapped delightedly. "Perfect. Agatha, start evaluation. I'll be by the pool sunning. Been an exhausting morning dealing with incompetence." Valerie left the kitchen, heels clicking. Alexander stood, watching his daughter cling to Ellen, knowing he was about to play his life's riskiest card. He had 24 hours to unmask the monster. Afternoon fell on the mansion with stifling heaviness. Miss Agatha had spent 4 hours quizzing Ellen on Mia's every detail, jotting in a black notebook with tiny, aggressive script while criticizing all. Toys too colorful, food too sugary from fruit, naps too long. Alexander locked himself in his study, supposedly catching up work. Valerie, confident she'd won, relaxed. She dismissed Agatha at 5 p.m., telling her to report early tomorrow for full control. "Head to your hotel, Agatha," Valerie said. "I'll handle the kid rest of afternoon. Want to bond before your new regime." Alexander overheard via open intercom. It was his chance. He left the study, finding Valerie in the hall. "Valerie," he said, donning jacket. "Gotta run to office. Emergency with Asian investors. Back in 2 hours, max." Valerie smiled, pleased to have the house solo for her new power. "Go ahead, darling. I'll watch Mia. Time for mother-daughter chat." "Ellen's in laundry ironing for tomorrow's leave," Alexander said. "Don't bother her." "Don't worry about her. For me, she doesn't exist," Valerie replied, pecking his cheek superficially. Alexander left the house, slamming the front door loudly, got in his car, started engine, drove to driveway end, waited 2 minutes, then circled back quietly, parking behind garages out of sight, re-entered via kitchen service door. Ellen was there, red-eyed from silent crying while folding unneeded napkins. She jumped at his thief-like entry. "Shh," Alexander, finger to lips, approached quickly. "Didn't leave. It's a trap." "A trap?" Ellen whispered, confused. Alexander pulled a device from pocket. Baby monitor with video screen. "Placed camera in playroom, hidden in bookshelf behind giant teddy." "Valerie thinks I'm out. You're down here busy. She's with Mia now." Alexander set the monitor on kitchen table. Volume max. Screen flickered, showing pastel playroom with pricey toys scattered. On it, Valerie sat in too small chair, staring at Mia in the farthest corner, clutching a rag doll to chest. Come here, Valerie's voice through speaker. Distorted, metallic, but malice clear. Mia shook head, shrinking more. I said come here, brat, Valerie said, standing. She grabbed Mia's arm roughly, dragging her to room center. Listen good, 'cause I won't repeat. Tomorrow that dirty woman you like so much is gone, poof, and you and me got new rules. In kitchen, Ellen hand to mouth, horrified. Alexander clenched fists on table, knuckles popping. It hurts, Mia whimpered in video. Whisper, but heard. I don't give a damn if it hurts, Valerie sneered, crouching face to face with the girl, her composed face a hate mask. Sick of your silences and those sad little stares. You'll learn to behave, Valerie hissed. Then she threatened to send Mia far away, to a place where silence was called discipline. Your dad won't know, Valerie added. I'll say it's an elite academy. He believes anything I say 'cause he's too busy making money, Mia cried, shaking, scared. Shut up, Valerie yelled, shaking her. Cry when your dad gets home. I'll say you broke my pearl necklace. He'll be mad at you. He'll always believe me. She called Mia a burden, a mistake she clearly resented having in her life. Valerie said something that made the room feel suddenly cold. Kitchen silence was grave. Valerie's words echoed like gunshots. Valerie spat something so vicious the air seemed to go cold. Alexander didn't need the exact words. He heard the intent, and it made him sick. On screen, Valerie released Mia, shoving her to rug. Stay there, don't move, grabbing my phone and wipe that snot. You're disgusting. Valerie turned to exit, smoothing dress like nothing happened. Alexander switched off monitor slowly, deliberately, looked at Ellen. Stay here, he said, voice oddly calm, calm before hurricane. Or better, come with me. Want you to see this. Sir, Ellen started. Don't call me sir, Alexander said, opening kitchen to main hall door. Call me Alexander, and come watch me take out the trash from my house. Alexander strode hallway in long strides, Ellen close behind, climbed stairs 2 at a time. Blood pumped in temples. Every second that woman breathed his home's air insulted his wife's memory and daughter's life. They reached upstairs hall as Valerie exited playroom, closing door. Seeing Alexander at hall end, she halted. Smile froze. Alexander, she said. False, surprised. Thought you were at office. Back quick. Didn't go anywhere, Alexander said, advancing like predator cornering prey. Valerie spotted Ellen behind, expression hardening. What's she doing here? Told her stay in laundry. Alexander, control your staff. Shut up, Alexander said. No yell, an order with authority killing Valerie's voice. He stopped a meter away, pulled monitor from pocket, held it up. Heard everything, Valerie. Color drained from Valerie's face so fast she seemed faint-bound. She eyed the black device, understanding in a split second her game over. Alexander, wait. I can explain. I was using reverse psychology. It's a modern technique for... You said wish she'd died with her mother, Alexander interrupted, voice trembling from contained rage. Said she was a burden. I was stressed. You don't know how hard it is dealing with a traumatized child, Valerie yelled, losing cool, attacking to defend. Doing it for you, so we have normal life. That kid's ruining us, Alexander. Someone had to be tough. That kid's my life, Alexander said, stepping closer, invading space till Valerie backed to wall. And you're my only mistake. Alexander pointed stairs with accusing finger. Get out! What? Valerie blinked, disbelieving. Can't throw me out? Wedding's in a month. Invites sent. My dad, screw your dad, the wedding invites. Alexander breathed raggedly. 10 minutes to get your stuff from my room. If still here in 10, calling cops, giving them recording of you threatening a minor. With my lawyers, you'll spend your youth in jail for child abuse. Want to test me? Valerie eyed Alexander, saw no empty threat, a lethal promise. Looked at Ellen, watching with dignity and pity from behind. You'll regret this, Valerie spat, rage tears smearing perfect makeup. Swapping me for a maid? Pathetic. No, Alexander said. Saving myself from you. Now run. Clock's ticking. Valerie screamed frustration, shoved past Alexander. He didn't budge, and ran to master bedroom, stumbling on heels, desperate to salvage jewels before expulsion from paradise she'd thought conquered. Alexander stood, watching the woman who'd nearly destroyed his daughter vanish from life. Turned to Ellen. Go to Mia, he said, and for first time that day, smiled. Sad, but free. Tell her no one will hurt her ever again. The furious drag of wheeled suitcase on wood floor sounded like wounded beast retreating. Valerie emerged from master bedroom furious, makeup streaked, once perfect hair in disheveled strands. She pulled 2 massive Louis Vuitton cases stuffed with what she'd crammed in 10 minutes. Jewels, silk dresses, designer shoes. Alexander waited at stairs' foot, arms crossed, stone expression. Behind him, at playroom door threshold, Ellen held Mia. The girl stopped crying but watched wide-eyed, air static charged. Hope you're happy, Valerie yelled from stairs top, pausing for Thamist venom. You'll end up alone, Alexander. Boring, sad, pathetic man. No one'll put up with that defective kid. Wasted my best years on you. Alexander unflinching. 6 months, Valerie, and you charged 3 Malibu trips on my card. Consider it severance. Now come down and go. Taxi's waiting. Valerie shrieked indignation, descending stairs, heels and cases banging, scratching century wood uncaring. At foyer, stopped before Alexander. Eyes pure hate. Glance shifted to Ellen and Mia. And you, she pointed at Ellen with trembling finger, manicured nails like daggers. Enjoy while it lasts, maid. When he tires of happy family play with you, he'll trash you like me. And that kid'll never be normal. Valerie spat a string of insults that made the air turn cold. Alexander stepped forward, patience gone. About to grab Valerie's arm and drag her out, but a sound stopped him. Sound not from him, Valerie, or Ellen. From Mia. The girl, hearing insult, wriggled from Ellen's hold. Didn't run hide. Stood on own feet, small but firm, face red with child rage. Fists clenched at dress sides, stared straight at woman tormenting her silently months. Mia opened mouth. Throat, rusty from disuse and trauma, struggled sound. Bad! Mia yelled. Yell hoarse, loud, explosive. Echoed high-ceiling foyer like cannon shot. Valerie stepped back, mouth agape, dropping 1 case handle. It thudded. Alexander paralyzed, heart stopping. Mia had spoken, but Mia wasn't done. Girl turned, back to Valerie like witch non-existent, ran back to Ellen. Clung to Housekeeper's legs, lifted tear-streaked face, and with soul-shattering clarity yelled word Alexander dreamed hearing, but to woman who'd earned it. Mama, Mia sobbed, burying face in Ellen's belly. Mama, don't go. Silence deafening. Ellen hands to mouth, stifling sob, knelt hugging girl, enveloping her, crying together. Accepting sacred title child bestowed, no permission from blood or genes. Alexander looked daughter and Ellen, then Valerie. Valerie's defeat total. Lost millionaire. Narrative. Mute child spoke to expel her. Crown made. No insult or manipulation topped that. Get out, Alexander whispered. Scarier than yell. Valerie, ghost pale, grabbed cases clumsily. Nothing left to say. Reality crushed her. Opened front door, stepped into afternoon chill, vanishing forever. Alexander shut door. Slam end of nightmare. Locked, turned key twice. Turned, leaned against wood, legs failing. Across foyer, Ellen and Mia still on floor, tangled in tears and nervous laughs. Alexander walked slowly, like entering holy ground, knelt beside. Mia looked up, eyes swollen. First time eyeing father without fear. Distance. "Daddy," Mia whispered, stretching hand. Alexander took daughter's hand, kissed it, crying openly, uncaring of suit, status, pride. Looked up at Ellen. She eyed him with love and fear mix, unsure post-crisis. Alexander extended other arm, breaking final boss-employee barrier, wrapped Ellen's shoulders, pulling both close. On mansion foyer floor, once mausoleum, 3 broken people pieced new. Not traditional family, stronger. Survivors meeting in wreck. "It's over," Alexander whispered, forehead to Ellen's. "No one hurts us anymore. We're home." 3 weeks passed. Mansion transformation radical. If unaware visitor entered, they'd think wrong address. Heavy velvet curtains keeping perpetual gloom removed, sun flooding every corner. Delicate Persian rugs rolled, stored, replaced by colorful playmats stain-proof. Toys in main living room, soft music on speakers. Most important, life. Alexander came home Friday afternoon, much earlier than old habit. Delegated most meetings. Priority no longer stock market, but snack time. Entered with white box green ribboned under arm. "Hello?" he called. No foyer answer, but familiar sound now life soundtrack. Laughter from backyard. Walked to greenhouse, where all began. At glass doors, paused. Intense déjà vu. Scene almost identical to fateful day. Golden light, lush plants, Ellen and Mia. But key differences. Ellen, no maid uniform. Wore light floral dress, simple, elegant. Hair loose over shoulders. No yellow rubber gloves. Bare hands, dirt-covered, transplanting delicate orchid. Mia beside with mini gardening set, chattering non-stop. And then the bee sat on the flower and said, "Hi, Mrs. Flower, right, Mom?" Mia said sweetly, making up for 2 silent years. "Yes, honey." And the flower gave some nectar, Ellen replied, smiling tenderly. Alexander chest pressure. Pure happiness. Opened door, entered. "Dad!" Mia yelled, seeing him, dropping shovel, running. Alexander set box on table, caught her midair, spinning. "Hey, princess, how are my favorite gardeners?" "We did a transplant," Mia exclaimed, pointing orchid. "Mom says it'll grow stronger now." Ellen stood, brushing dirt from hands. Hearing Mia call her mom before Alexander, still blushed slightly, looking down shyly. Adorable to him. "Hi, Alexander," she said softly. No more sir. Took weak convincing, but succeeded. "Hi, Ellen." Alexander set Mia down. "Princess, fetch Robert, tell him bring lemonade, need talk with Ellen moment." "Yes, Captain!" Mia saluted clumsily, ran from greenhouse, footsteps echoing happily to kitchen, Alexander and Ellen alone amid plants. Air jasmine and wet earth, now home sent to him. He approached table, took box. "Brought you something," extended. Ellen wiped hands on waist rag, took box curiously. Untied ribbon, lifted lid. Inside, no pricey jewels, diamonds, luxury watches. Set of keys, with personalized keychain, silver house, 3 names engraved, Alexander, Ellen, Mia. Ellen eyed keys, then him confused. "Alexander, I have house keys, service ones." "Those aren't service," he said, stepping closer, gently invading space. "Those are owner's keys." Ellen eyes widened. "Alexander, no, I can't accept. Too much. I'm just—" Alexander finger on lips, silencing. "Ellen, listen." This house was tomb before you. Marble walls, gold furniture, but dead. You didn't just dust, you cleaned my soul. Taught me wealth's not in bank, but seeing daughter laugh. Taught love not bought. Built with patience, lullabies, damp cloths on fever night. Alexander paused, fighting tears. Mia, at side, squeezed his leg supportively. I promise, he continued, you'll never feel alone. Promise this house always your home, not workplace. Promise spend rest my days trying return fraction happiness you've given Mia and me. I love you. Ellen sobbed openly, no hiding. Drew breath, clear voice said vows. Alexander came seeking job to survive, found reason live, lost much, thought heart closed forever. You and Mia broke lock, gave hope back. Promise care, protect, love, not duty, greatest joy, your best friend, love, family. They exchanged rings, simple gold bands shining sun. Declare you husband and wife, Judge said. Alexander, kiss bride. Kiss passionate, movie style, sealed with applause, cheers. Mia jumped around, throwing rose petals, yelling, Yay, newlyweds! Party relaxed, happy. Home-cooked food on long lawn tables. Burgers, apple pie. Creative ad. Thanksgiving-style turkey sliders for American touch. Alexander ditched jacket, tie, seen dancing barefoot on grass with Ellen while Mia chased Ellen's cousin's kids. Toward dusk, sky violet-orange, Alexander took Ellen's hand, signaled follow, slipped from party discreetly to greenhouse, entered glass sanctuary. Air still warm, humid, peace microclimate. Remember? Alexander pointed spot he'd first seen her with Mia on shoulders. Like yesterday, Ellen said, head on shoulder. Scared you'd fire me. Scared to feel again, he confessed. Alexander led to corner, large empty pot prepped with fresh soil. Beside, young tree, oak ready planting. Wanted do this with you, Alexander said. Planting tree wedding day brings luck, but this no ordinary. Oak grows slow, roots deep, no storm topples. Want our family like that? Ellen smiled, touched, took gardening shovels, uncaring wedding clothes dirt, dug hole in black fertile earth together. Wait, Ellen said suddenly. Missing someone. Turned door, called, Mia, come. Girl appeared moment later, face chocolate cake smeared, huge smile. What? Help plant our tree, Ellen said. Mia ran, squeezed between. 6 hands on slender trunk, placed in earth. Covered roots together, padding soil secure. Done, Alexander said, wiping hands. Grows with us now. Mia eyed tree, then parents. Know what, Dad? Girl thoughtful. What, love? Glad bad witch left, 'cause if not, no plant tree. Mom not my mom. Alexander and Ellen exchanged amazed glance at child's crushing logic. Alexander knelt, hugged life's 2 women. Right, Mia. Sometimes bad happens show good right in front. Ellen stroked Alexander's cheek, kissed Mia's head. Worth it, she whispered. Every tear, fear, all worth to reach this. Sun set fully, greenhouse auto lights on, soft magical glow on plants. There, life surrounded, billionaire learned love, employee found home, girl regained voice, stayed hugged, knowing story and not fairy tale happily ever after. Better, real, together, future garden just starting cultivate. Alexander looked at his wife and daughter and knew with absolute certainty that being the world's richest man had nothing to do with money. If this story moved you, please like the video. What would you have done in Alexander's place? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories like this. Thank you for watching.